Welcome to this week's OK at Work with myself, Sarah Sawyer, and my colleague, Russell Berger, both attorneys with Offit Kurman and the Employment Group. And this week, we're going to be talking about some OSHA guidance that's probably coming down the pipeline here. We've got the Biden administration has mandated OSHA review its COVID-19 enforcement procedures and launch a national program that focuses on efforts on COVID-19 violations and trying to keep workers safe. So at this point, OSHA's diving into taking a look at a more formalized program, and the latest guidance has a list of elements that OSHA is recommending at this point, not requiring, that companies include in their COVID policies, and they're going to be probably a little bit more comprehensive, maybe than some employers have based on their current state guidance. So, what are we looking at here, Russell?
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying that I think if you've been complying with CDC guidance, through the duration of the pandemic, you're probably in pretty good shape. There's not going to be a whole lot that's different or new. Some of it might be just a little bit better record keeping or documentation of some of the steps you probably took 10 months ago. Obviously, this is certainly a priority of the Biden administration, and the timing is a little, it seems a little off to me. If we were going to do this, it seems like it would have been a great thing to do 10 months ago. And now as the vaccine's getting disseminated and we're getting, once that gets disseminated a little bit more, we'll be safer in our workplaces. It seems like an odd time to ramp up the regulatory requirements. But that being said, if you've been following the CDC guidance all along, I think you're probably going to be in pretty decent shape, and it's probably just a matter of documenting and maybe going a half step further in a couple different places.
Yeah, it looks like there's going to be some formalization of just making sure that maybe the plans that you've already put in place or already considered are actually written down or formalized in some manner. I think it's going to make a little bit of a difference, just kind of depending on your industry. So, we've seen this in some states, and it looks like OSHA is examining this as a possible federal mandate as well, is that kind of identifying, doing a risk assessment involving different roles and different risk exposure for different employees. So there might be some work around having to formalize kind of, all right, who's most at risk, what are we doing to manage that risk, who's least at risk, and putting that into a formal written policy. I've definitely seen that in some other states. I mean, we're based here in Maryland, which doesn't have those types of requirements, but Virginia already has some hazard assessment requirements. I know some other states like Michigan, this really mirrors a lot of what they had already put in place on the state level. So a lot of states already have some of these formalized things in place, but this is really going to be something that's kind of blanketing all employers on a federal level.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just kind of judging from this proposed list that's out there, I do think it's more of kind of the planning, and the formalization of the planning and your protocols. That's really what I think the biggest difference is going to be. And again, I just think that's it's kind of odd timing. Employers have been doing whatever they've been doing for a while now. So, now you've got to write it down is kind of a strange, inefficient use of the regulatory process, in my opinion. That being said, the policies and the practices themselves are the same things we've largely been recommending. It's the same things the CDC has been suggesting. So from a practical standpoint, if you've been listening to us for the last 10 months, you should be in pretty good shape. And if you've been listening to the CDC, you should be in pretty good shape. And I do think that there's going to be more, while I think like I said, I think kind of some of these steps are unnecessary this far into the process. It isn't a bad time to do some kind of revisiting as people come back into the workplace, and as you have vaccinated people coming back into the workplace, and you know presumably unvaccinated people coming back in the workplace, it's probably not a bad time to at least stop for a moment and kind of think about, do I need to update my policies? I haven't had more than a handful of people in the workplace for 10 months, and now I'm going to have half my office full. What should I be looking at to practically make my workplace safer again.
Yeah, and I would say some employers that I've been talking to as well that have just been completely remote this whole time period. Now that things are developing with the vaccine, and we're hopefully moving in a good direction here, they're considering bringing people back to work. And some of those employers maybe haven't put as much thought into their policies at this point, because if they've had one person in the office that couldn't work from home, or they didn't have anyone in the office, now is the time you got to put those policies in place. And this will, at this point, definitely, if you don't have any policies in place yet, this is a good list. The OSHA's got a list of guidance at this point, some elements and things like that, that would be a good place to start, and a good thing to look at and examine. So I know a lot of people are starting to go back into the office now for the first time. So definitely need to keep all of these things in mind when doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Russell, and we'll talk soon. See you next time.
Thanks, Sarah.